Hello and welcome to today's video. Today is a video I've been wanting to make for a couple of months. I've been very busy with other video projects and work and things. But as a lot of you know, back in end of September into October, I went on a little trip with my partner to Japan. This was a trip that was supposed to happen originally, just me back in 2020. I had a big audition trip booked around Europe for my singing job, and then I was going to have a nice relaxing stationery shopping holiday on the way back, but being 2020, the universe had other ideas. And it's taken 5 years to be able to do this little trip to Japan. Still hoping to do the audition trip, but that takes a lot of organizing and a lot of time. But this little trip to Japan was a lovely opportunity to get away, do some, touristy things, eat some amazing food, including some of the best ramen I've ever had in my life, as you would expect. But also to visit some of these stationery shops that I've been wanting to see for a long time. Last time I was in Japan was actually about 15 years ago. I was there doing a concert series. And at that point, while I loved stationery, I wasn't involved in it in the same way that I am now. Like, this channel is around almost 9 years old now. And so obviously that predates all of that. And so I was really excited to finally be able to get to Japan and see some of these things I've been, hearing about, looking about and talking to other people about for so long. So across the trip, we mainly spent our time in Tokyo and Kyoto. And I was able to go to a huge range of stores. I stopped counting, I think about 14 or 15 stationery stores. That includes, like places like Muji, which was really fantastic. Actually, it was really great to see at Muji how cohesive the stores are around the world. I visited them in a few different countries now, and it's really great to see how cohesive they are. But one thing I loved was the fact that that beautiful aluminium fountain pen that Muji do is still for sale there. We don't have it in Australia. We have sometimes the platinum preppy style polycarbonate fountain pen from Muji, but we don't have the aluminium version. And when I was in China, there were a couple of new versions of pens that are clearly made by Keiko. It was really interesting just to be able to see that aluminium one there in store. I've already got a handful of them, so I didn't feel the need to buy any more, but it was great to see them there. There was also the famous Don Quixote stores, which are like massive, mini department stores, just jam-packed with stuff at sort of, generally speaking, pretty reasonable prices. And they had an incredible little stationery range. In fact, if just at stationery range in a few of their stores, although stationery was spelt wrong on the sign there at one of them, if that department was a store in itself, in Australia, that would be considered a rather nice little stationery shop. It was amazing. There are big Don Quixote stores, there are smaller ones, but they are action-packed, they are jammed full, and they are a really fun place to sort of shop. And then, of course, from every supermarket, convenience store, department store having a really great stationery department. I think of the bookshops, I can't remember the name, is it Marizen, which had incredible stationery range, including actually one of the ones in Kyoto had amazing range of notebooks, pens, inks. I spent well over an hour just sort of browsing through there. But of course, one of the main places that in Australia that people go to for little Japanese bits and pieces is Daiso, and they did not disappoint. Once again, cohesive across the countries and the range and all that kind of thing, but really fun to see it all there and see what they had on offer. In this video, I kind of want to talk about the experience of stationery shopping in Japan, and I want to kind of focus on 4 main stores. If you're going to Japan, if you're going to Kyoto or Tokyo in particular, these are places to look out for. The first one is Loft. Now, Loft is once again, sort of like a department store in a way. They've got, I'm thinking of the one in Ginza in Tokyo, different levels that are different sort of ranges of products. So one will be like homewares, one will be tech, and they have a stationery and like letter writing and scrapbooking sort of level there. It was really interesting to see the stock and the prices on the stock. In fact, across all the stores, it was really interesting to gauge the prices as to what the prices I see coming out of places like the US or the UK, and what we get in Australia versus what the actual prices, particularly for the Japanese brands, are in Japan. One thing I did notice was that European brands such as Lamy and Pelican and those kinds of brands are actually more expensive in Japan than they are in Australia. I think of, something like a Lamy Safari, which costs $50 here in Australia, pay more for it there. Something like the Dialogue CC from Lamy, once again, was noticeably more, like I think around about $100 more than you pay in Australia for that same pen. Obviously, different countries have different import taxes and all those kinds of things, and different distributors and dealers get different prices and all that kind of thing, depending on how much they buy, when they buy, what they buy. But it was interesting to see it all sort of there. Now, Loft is a great store. It's really great if you want sort of that crossover between, high-end stationery and great everyday stuff. I remember walking around the Loft in Kyoto, which I particularly enjoyed, and looking at the Sakura Craft Lab section there, and really enjoying being able to test those and have them in my hand, as well as, a great range of diaries. I was there at prime diary season at the beginning of October, so all the Hobonichis, Roll Barn, you kind of name it, it's all out there. And once again, the prices are really good, but you're sort of left to yourself more in a store like that. It's not the one-on-one sort of shopping experience you might get even with premium pen range in some other retailers. And I kind of like that, being a little bit introverted, being someone who likes to take their time and do their own thing. I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to walk around the Loft stores and just experience those things myself. The premium pen counters with all the Sailor and Platinum and those kinds of things, being able to actually look at them and not be sort of questioned by the staff. I did buy a few things, and tomorrow actually will be a video where I talk about my haul from Japan. I'm not going to cover everything. I literally would take 3 hours to cover everything I bought. I bought lots of singles of pens, I bought lots of notebooks I've used here in Australia, lots of products I've used here in Australia just at really good prices. But I want to show a couple of specific things from each place. Next in my chain of stores, if you will, is the Tag Stationery stores in Kyoto. I loved going to Tag. I went to the main flagship one in Kyoto, and firstly, their range of inks, all the Kyono Oto inks and all those kinds of things, Fumisome, just beautiful to see and look at, and at times even test. And also the premium pen department there was phenomenal. They have these displays with the custom 74s and the Century 3776 from Platinum and some Sailor pens, where you can try every nib size from each of those pens. And I sat there for 40 minutes just writing with every nib size of all of these pens on offer. And it was really interesting to sort of test out a couple of nibs I have never had the chance to write with. I would have loved to have found a store that had the Pilot Custom Heritage 912 nibs, because I think there's a great range of nibs there and some really interesting ones. And I love that pen model, and I've often thought about getting another one with something like either a Waverley or something like that. But being able to test all those nibs and see the ones that I have never been able to use, because in Australia we do get a very limited range of nibs on those pens. It's very rare for us to get the outlying nibs. We mainly, it's fine and medium and then slowly working outwards, if you will. So it was really great to be able to test all of those and have a bit of fun in the process. I spent a lot of time in that Tag store because I did buy a few things, which I'll show once again tomorrow. But there were things that I'd headhunted before I went on the trip. I had a nice little list, and Tag came up really good in that respect. It's a really interesting store. It sort of feels like a cross between like an office supply store, like all the way the notebooks and everything are sort of organized, and then some of the single gel pens and all those kinds of pens. And then they've got this like premium pen department with these beautiful inks, beautifully displayed, and amazing pens in the counter that, pens I've never heard of or seen, or at least versions of those pens I've never heard of or seen, and just all there, and it was really, really fun. Okay, there are two stores left that I want to talk about, or two chains of stores. One store in particular, and then an experience of stores. And these were kind of the main reasons I really, really wanted to go to Japan. The first is Itoya in Ginza in Tokyo. This store is amazing. It's crowded, it's busy. The shelves are packed to the brim with stuff, and it's amazing. This is the infamous, 12 levels store. There's a few stores, levels in particular, that were of interest. Firstly, like the everyday writing range with all the gel pens and notebooks and all that kind of thing. I spent a lot of time there. This is where I really picked up a lot of individual pens. You can go through the range of the Pilot gel pens and get colors in these we've never seen here, and some of those Sailor Shikiori pens and all that kind of stuff. Once again, I'll show a lot more of this tomorrow. But it was really cool to be able to look at all of that and see it and try them out, and then also see a range of notebooks from brands that I love, where they have the full range, not just what we get here in Australia. But that level is so jam-packed. It's really interesting to see what people gravitate to and what they don't gravitate to. So, for instance, once again, I'm going to use Lamy as the example here, because in Australia, Lamy is very popular. But in Japan, it's a little bit more expensive, and the Lamy area was kind of empty. Whereas, once again, you go things like the Pilot range or the Zebra range, things like that, they are jam-packed. You cannot get to the counter sometime. It's really cool. It's cool to see so many people actively engaged. When I got to Itoya on that day, on the first day I went there, I got there half an hour before it opened, and I was the first in line. And by the time it opened, there were 40, 50 people waiting around outside. And they opened up the entry level first, and we were able to walk around and see a few things there. And, there's a little coffee machine and all those kinds of things. And then they opened up the escalators and we could go up to the next levels. And once again, I was at the front of that line because I wanted to get to the premium pen level, which was what I was going there for. And I'll show tomorrow what I got. But the pen I was hunting for, there was actually two pens that I was sort of tossing up between. One that, having used it more recently, I had decided probably wasn't for me, and one that I wanted to see in person and hold and feel before I actually bought it. But I turn 40 next year, and I wanted to get myself, once again, a nice present for my birthday. I like buying myself a gift for my birthday. Really, it's an excuse to buy a somewhat expensive pen, but also because I was there in Japan, I wanted a really lovely souvenir of the trip and a pen that I would remember for that. So I was at the front of that line. I went up, I found exactly what I was after. A bit of a story around it, which I'll come back to, but it was really great to be able to sort of be on that level and to see all those pens and the versions of those pens and see brands I'd never seen in person. There were brands like Colortino that I'm really keen to try out and actually be able to see it, hold it, and see how they work. Was really great. I'd love to review one of those, but also all the Japanese pens and brands, like all the beautiful Makie pens and the Namiki pens, all that kind of stuff, just there in front of you. Kind of amazing. And I could easily, had I gone in there with an unlimited budget, I would have spent unlimited money. It is just endless, and I would have been just buying everything, because all the different versions of the pens, the different finishes, it could have been a very expensive trip. Luckily, I'm pretty sort of stubborn and strong-willed. I did spend a little more than I anticipated, but not by much. And that's just because the range of everything was so vast that I just needed to get a few things I just knew I couldn't get here in Australia. The staff at Itoya were fantastic. The lady who served me in particular on the first day, she was so kind and thoughtful and helpful, which was really, really lovely. They also have this pen repair counter next to the cashier counter, and I was standing there looking at them, fixing things and taking things apart and thinking, gosh, that would be like my dream job in this industry. Two things I love to do is I love to be a buyer for a retailer dealing with brands around the world, but also doing that pen repair. I do a little bit of that in one of my day jobs at a stationery store here in Australia, and just doing basic repairs and things. And I really enjoy getting my hands literally dirty at times fixing these pens. So that's something that I really enjoyed about that store in Ginza. And then we come to the experience store, and this is where the trip was really fun. This, of course, is Travelers Company. I visited 4 Travelers stores in Japan, and I'll cover more of this tomorrow again. But we started by visiting the station store, the railway station store at Tokyo Station. This is a very small store. It's very fun. It's very cramped. They've got like a nice limited edition exclusives and things like that. Watching everyone sort of, once again, in there and engaged and stamping their notebooks and things was so great. Then we went directly from there to the flagship store in Tokyo, which, you get on a couple of trains and you're out there and you line up because they only have a certain amount of space in the store. It's, once again, very small. And you literally line up until there's room in the store for you. And all of that part of the experience was so much fun. And then after going in Kyoto, I went, of course, to the Kyoto store, which was my favorite. It's a little bit bigger. The staff were fantastic, helpful, engaged in what we were buying and why. Once again, exclusive editions, all those kinds of things. More stamping. One of my favorite stamps was from there, which I showed in tomorrow's video. But it was just so nice to be in and amongst it all and amongst people who are really there for like proper travelers, company people who have travelers journals in their hands, well used and worn. And it's a brand that has a cult following for a reason. Not only is it practical, but kind of like it's a culture. It's a community, which is really, really fun. And then 2 hours before leaving Japan, we went to the Narita airport store. Unfortunately, they didn't have what we were looking for, which was the passport size exclusive, but it was really fun to be there and round out the trip like that. So my general thoughts about stationery shopping in Japan is, firstly, do your research, know what you're after, because you can go and actually find things, because sometimes the stores are really busy and you're not always going to get one-on-one help or be able to have a whole lot of time at any particular part of the store, particularly somewhere like Itoya or some of the at Loft occasionally. So know what you're going for, work out your prices. So if you know how much, if you're buying things that, for instance, travelers refills or life stationery notebooks or those sorts of things, know how much they cost in Australia and see if it is cost effective to get them there. I found it was. So I bought up a bunch of things and I'm excited about having those things. And, of course, I'll use them and then I'll have to get them here again in Australia, but it's nice to have had them from there. Also, be aware that there are exclusives and limited editions, and like Lamy have an exclusive fountain pen to the Japan market, which I saw at the Maruzen store. Itoya have their exclusive Lamy Safari. I already own those two pens, so I didn't need to buy them there. But yeah, just be aware of what is there and what you can get. And then make sure you dedicate enough time to doing it. I can't stress this enough. Don't think you're going to be in Itoya for half an hour. You are not. Like 2 hours was not quite enough. I ended up doing repeat visits. I think I ended up going to Itoya 3 times to really be able to delve in and see what they had and test the things I wanted to and get what I wanted and order what I wanted. So give yourself the time for that. Allow that, because it can be really, really wonderful. The other thing to do is, before you go, is jump on platforms like Reddit and Instagram and all those places and see what other people are doing, see where they're shopping, because they all know the little places. And as I said, this is just a very small smattering of the places I visited. I stopped counting it, in the teens of stores that I went to, and continued to, anytime I went somewhere, like the flagship Caran d'Ache store was phenomenal in Tokyo. Like, to be able to see the Le Mans pens, the Grand Bleu is one of my dream pens. I'd love to own that, be able to see it there, or their 630 Australian dollar pencil sharpener, which is mind-blowing. But also to pick up things that you can't get anywhere else, to see the build your own versions of things, all of that, it's all there. So know what you're going to, but do your research, but just enjoy it. Enjoy the experience of it, because there's nowhere else in the world that you can stationery shop like in Japan. Nowhere has the sheer density of stationery stores, or stationery related or stationery adjacent stores that Japan has. And so it was really wonderful to be able to go to a store and be able to see all the things you've been thinking about or wanted to see, from European brands to Asian brands to American brands. They had Esterbrook at Itoya. Like, it's amazing. So don't get trigger happy and buy the first thing you see. Check out the prices, but also understand the tax-free element of the shopping experience. Look into how that relates to your country. But yeah, I really love my experience. I'm excited to show you a few of the things I got tomorrow. And yeah, thank you for watching. And so please watch tomorrow's video, and please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. If you'd like to support the channel, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, and I'll see you tomorrow.